Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 35th part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 191, Truth or Dare Part 1. Greetings my loyal minions. Kiba said into her camera, as she sat in one of the empty rooms, with a group of her friends and siblings. And welcome to Truth or Dare. Grabs popcorn. Oh, this is gonna be good. This can only go well. I can only imagine what's gonna happen to Fu today. Allow me to introduce the stars of today's broadcast. Kiba turned her camera towards the group. My ever-positive sister Kay. Hello. Kay happily waved at the camera. My first and most loyal minion Fu. Don't mourn for me, I'm already dead. Fu sighed. Our antisocial sister, Kyoku. That's how you introduce me? Kyoku pouted. Our resident fashion-forward fiend, Shiruku. Fiend? Shiruku objected. Our mook maker, Yami. Please don't call me that, Yami said politely. The ego twins, Ken and Nara. What do you mean ego twins? Ken and Nara shouted at the same time. My apprentice, Knees. Hey there. Knees introduced with a forced smile and peppiness. Our sinister-sounding, but mostly well-meaning friend, aka. I am not in any way sinister. Take that back or be obliterated. Aka argued. Our elusive friend, Jin. I got bored and had a little extra energy, Jin said, as he sipped a cup of coffee. Our stupidly youthful aunts. Yaba, G, and Inu. Hey. All three of them said at the same time. And lastly, our empty-headed follower, Sori. What's up? Sori said excitedly, not at all offended by the diss. And then, someone here to make sure all the truths are true, Yonda. Kiba finished up. Yonda waved at the camera. Now then, let's get to the rules, Kiba explained, as she picked up a cup with a bunch of sticks in it. Whoever gets the longest stick will get to go first, and ask whoever they want, truth or dare. If they say truth, they have to tell the truth. If they say dare, they have to do a dare. If they got caught lying during a truth, they have to do a double truth or dare. If they refuse a dare, same thing unless we all decide that it's too much. At least there are some boundaries. This is still gonna get messy. Now then, let's see who goes first. Kiba said, as everyone surrounded the cup and started pulling out sticks. Ha! Victory is mine. Aka cackled, as she held up the longest stick, with a sinister smile. Now then, Lady Kiba, truth or dare, if you dare. Oh? You're asking me? Kiba smirked. I can't embarrass you without asking the question, now answer. Or are you scared? Aka smirked back. As if. In fact. Dare. Kiba said confidently. Aka cackled. Oh, how you will regret that answer, my dear. Ahahaha. Ahahaha. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX herself when all of a sudden. Knock knock knock. Come in Kiba, Izuku said immediately. How did you know it was me? Kiba asked as she entered the room, not quite closing the door behind her. No one else knocks that loud, Izuku explained. This is the second time I've been figured out by the sound of my knocking. Is it really that loud? Kiba asked herself internally. Now, what do you need? Izuku asked. Almost immediately, Kiba's face turned red, as she was reminded of what she had come here for. Daddy, can I have a hug? Izuku gave her an odd look for a second, before shaking his head and getting up. Of course, my little shadow queen. He picked her up, and held her in his arms, patting the back of her head and rocking her in just the way she liked, which only made her face go redder. Did anything happen? Are you okay? Izuku asked her. Normally she only called him dad or daddy when she was distressed. I'm fine, Kiba said, before taking a deep breath. Daddy. I really, super dupers love you a whole lot. Ah. I see. Izuku smiled. Are those your real feelings, or is this part of some kind of bet or dare? Why yes. Kiba buried her head in Izuku's torso, to hide her intense blush. Alright, I think that's enough, Izuku said towards the door, seeing a camera recording them. He. AKA laughed evilly as she ran away. Izuku shook his head, before looking back at Kiba. You gonna be okay? Yeah. Kiba groaned. Just, stay like this for a bit longer. As you command, Izuku said, as he hugged her, just a bit tighter. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX That was so cute. Well, I now have diabetes. I love this family. Look at her blush. I love you, Lady K. I will get revenge for this, Kiba said as she glared at AKA. But for now, Shiruku. Truth or dare? Truth. Shiruku decided. She didn't have anything to hide after all. Is it true that you've gotten stuck on the toilet once? Kiba asked. How did you know about that? Shiruku screamed, as her face instantly became red. Ah ha 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 ha. Some of the kids burst out laughing. How the heck did that happen? Ken asked through his laughter. Look, toilets aren't exactly made for people with giant spider butts, okay, at least not until, you know what, never mind, yes I did. Shiruko grimaced before she glanced over to Fu, and instantly a smirk came to her face. Fu. Truth or dare? Fu sighed. Dare. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Fu thought to himself. Fu was now sitting back down in the circle, but now wearing a bright red dress, covered in makeup, and wearing a long white wig. In other words, he looked like some kind of fusion between himself and Kiba. Ah ha 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 ha. Once again laughter overtook a good chunk of the group. This time far more hysterical than with Shiruku, who looked rather proud of herself. Wow Fu, you actually look really pretty. Kei complimented with no trace of mockery in her voice. Thanks, Kei. Fu sighed. In all honesty, he was mixed about this whole thing. On one hand, this was probably the most embarrassing he'd been in a while, and on the other hand, he always enjoyed feeling something regardless of what it was, so he was kinda into it. It's your turn, sister. Kiba snickered. Fu is rocking that look. Fu did always look good in red. Why does he actually look like a girl though? Shiruku is very good with makeup. Alright, let's stop the hate train here. Kei, truth or dare? Fu asked. Dare. Kei said boldly. I dare you not to make any puns for the rest of this day, Fu said. Boo! Thank you. No fun. Thank Fu. Kei pouted and crossed her arms. Meanie. Inu, truth or dare? Truth. Inu decided. Come on sis, don't be a wuss, say dare. Yaba said, trying to pressure/encourage her sister. She already said truth. But out of it sis. G told her. Alright, who do you like more? G or Yaba? Kei asked. Oh. That's way more spicy than I would have thought, coming from you. Yaba smirked, before turning to Inu. So sis, who you gonna dash? G, Inu said with little hesitation, but a bit of guilt. EHHH. Yaba gave her sister a shocked and outraged look. That was fucking fast. What the heck? It's quite simple really, I don't get us into fights all the time, G said with a self-assured smirk. Yeah, I have that sibling. F for Yaba. F. 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 You could have pretended that it was a hard choice, Yaba mumbled, as she crossed her arms and pouted. I still love you a lot too, sis, Inu said, trying to make her feel better but to no avail. G. Truth or dare? G sighed. I guess dare. I dare you to, say woof at the end of every sentence. Inu decided. Geez, I twitched a bit. Could have sworn you said I was your favorite. Woof. Ugh. Yaba, truth or dare? Woof. Dare. Yaba said with a menacing look. Do your worst, sis. I dare you to eat an eyeball. Woof. G said with a smirk, as all of Yaba's confidence drained from her face, which was quickly turning white. Oh ha, hi. Got her. You evil bitch. Yaba said in a horrified whisper. It was then Shiroku pulled out a jar of eyeballs from behind her, much to Yaba's shock and disgust. Why were you just carrying that around? Yaba asked. Snacks, Shiroku said with a shrug, as she slid the jar over to Yaba. Eat? Everyone looked at her, and Yaba was sweating as she stared at the glass. She took a deep breath, and took off the lid, before placing her hand in the jar. Squish! Yaba grimaced, as a wet slimy sound came out as she picked up one of the eyeballs. She held it up and tried not to gag. She gathered all her courage, and... Squish! A wet sound rang out, as Yaba popped the eyeball into her mouth. Yaba cringed so hard as her teeth clamped down on it, popping it and causing eyeball juice to fly all over her mouth. She gauged, but she managed to keep herself from vomiting and held it together, enough to slur what was left of the eyeball down her throat. Oh! Oh ha! Egg! Yaba gagged, as her task was finally complete. It's like a fish-flavored grape. Ugh! Alright sis, your turn, G said with a shit-eating grin. But remember, you can't ask me yet. I know, Yaba growled, as she looked around, seeing who her target would be, and her eyes landed on Jin. Hey, sleeping beauty, truth or dare? Truth, Jin said. What is it you do all day in that room? Yaba asked, genuinely curious. Like you never come out of there, so you have to be doing something aside from sleep. I watch TV and read books, Jin answered. That's it. My life is pretty boring because I don't have the energy to do anything. Come on, there has to be something interesting. Yaba said, giving him a disbelieving glare. No, he's telling the truth, his life is just that boring. Yanda explained. Humph, waste of a turn, Yaba muttered. AKA, truth or dare, Jin asked. Dare. Do your worst. You will find it lacking. AKA said before laughing again. Ahahaha dash. I dare you not to use the bathroom until the game is over, Jin said. AKA stopped laughing, and her eyes went wide. Ha? You cannot use the bathroom until the game is over, Jin repeated. Jerk, AKA replied. Chapter 192, Truth or Dare Part 2. Sorry, truth or dare? AKA asked. Dare. Come at me. Sorry challenged. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX in, with a very satisfied expression. Sorry, what are you Sai suddenly yelped, as Sori smacked her butt and ran away. Ha! It bounced. She has a big butt. Sori laughed, and the sound of several other footsteps and laughter. Sai shook her head. Children. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX I want to say this is supposed to be child-friendly but… LMAO. Kiba being child-friendly. What a funny joke. I can't believe you actually did that. Fu sighed. Well, I did. Which means I get to go next. Sori said without a hint of shame. Ken. Truth or dare? Dare. Ken said. Outside he was cocky. But he was a bit nervous. After all, some of the dares were pretty brutal. I dare you to do whatever dare you were going to give to your sister, Sori said mischievously. Instantly, Ken's face lost any trace of confidence. Ha! Nara suddenly burst into laughter. Nice one. Karma wins again. Alright, spit it out. What were you gonna do? Kiba asked. Ken sighed. I was gonna make her chew on my sock for 1 minute. Immediately, all amusement left Nara's face and was replaced with outrage and horror. You were gonna do what? It wasn't even the stinker ones. Ken scoffed as he pulled out the sock he'd been holding onto. Alright, let's get this over with. With little hesitation, Ken stuffed the sock in his mouth and winced. It was sour and damp. Not overwhelmingly so, but definitely in a way that made this extremely unpleasant. Timer starts now, Fu said, using his phone to time the dare. You-wah. Man, poor Ken. He thought of a good dare, and it just got Uno reverse carded on him. Karma. This won't do any serious harm, will it? Not unless Ken's sweat in a biohazard. Mine sure is. Done. Fu called as a full minute had passed. Pa. Ken spat out the sock behind him. Here you go. Kei, who had left since the dare was revealed, returned, with a glass of milk, and handed it to Ken. Kei, you're a lifesaver. Ken quickly chugged down the milk, letting it wash away the taste of sock in his mouth. Alright, do your worst. Nara sighed, knowing exactly what was coming next. Yami, truth or dare, Ken said, getting surprised looks from everyone. What, I just used up my dare for her. Now I need to think of something else. You're assuming I would have said dare. Nara pointed out. Oh yeah. Ken blushed as he realized the rather obvious oversight in his plan. Anyway, Yami, truth or dare? Dare. Yami shrugged. He didn't really have anything interesting to hide, so this would keep things interesting. I dare you to eat one of your own grim, Ken said. A lot of eating things, huh? Can he even eat that? Yami shrugged, before spitting out a bit of grim goop. The goop hit the ground, before quickly turning into a ravager. Yami then grabbed the small grim and then bit its head off, chewing it thoroughly. As the grim started to dissipate, Yami threw the rest of it in his mouth and kept chewing. Burp! Yami let out a very loud burp, and black smoke came out of his mouth. How did it taste? Ken asked. Bitter, spicy, bad, Yami answered. Well, that makes sense, they are literally the physical embodiment of negativity. Like vegetables. Knees, truth or dare? Yami asked. Truth, Knees answered, not wanting to go through one of those horrible dares. Have you ever kissed body pillows? Yami asked. Immediately Knees' face turned red, and she looked away from the group. Why yes. No one even laughed at that, they just gave her extremely pitying looks. It's okay, Knees, people are probably making out with Kiba's body pillows as we speak, Fu reassured her. Yes, thank you for reminding me, Kiba grunted. Fu, truth or dare? Knees said quickly, wanting to get the focus off of her. I'll take a truth this time, Fu said. What is the most embarrassing thing Kiba has made you do? Knees asked. Aside from this, one time she got a squeaky toy stuck in her throat, and I had to spend hours getting it out, while she kept vomiting on me, Fu revealed. Wait, what? How did she get a chew toy stuck in her throat? I'm imagining that now, and I'm both disgusted and thoroughly amused. Yeah, that sounds like Kiba alright. How did you get a dog toy stuck in your throat? Nara asked Kiba with a bewildered look. It happens. Yaba shrugged. No, it doesn't. G objected. You two are just weird. Nara, truth or dare? Kiba asked, her face red with embarrassment. Truth, Nara said. I can handle some embarrassment. I'm this idiot's sister, so I'm used to it. Ken stuck his tongue out in response. Alright, tell us about the first time you ever transformed, Kiba said. Ah. That. Nara blushed. Okay, so one day I just woke up as Ditto, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. Everyone freaked out and I just kept multiplying over and over, and then people started hitting me and stepping on me. It was a mess. Yeah, Ken said with a fond smile. Although it's kind of funny now. For you. Nara scoffed, before looking back at everyone. Alright. Kyoku, truth or dare? Truth, Kyoku answered. I heard you broke into Izuku's house and changed everyone's memories when you first came into the family, Nara said. How did you manage that? Well, first I changed Kiba's memories and made her leave the door unlocked, Kyoku explained. I don't remember that happening. How did you do that? Kiba asked. I offered to give you a head massage. Kyoku snickered. I honestly didn't think it would work. Well, Kiba's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. Yonda said cockily. Don't take massages from strangers' kids. I feel we gloss over the fact that she literally broke into their house and said you're gonna adopt me whether you like it or not. Standard stuff for the Midoriya family. I expect that one day aliens will crash into their house, and they'll look like children and demand to be adopted. Well, I don't regret it one bit. Kiba pouted. Because I got another cute sister out of it, so ha. Aw woo. Aw woo. Aw woo. This is what I come here for. Fluff and gore. Same. 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 Alright, sorry, truth or dare? Kyoku asked. Dare. Sorry said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Yes, I'm sure. Alright sir, we'll start work on Project Deicide, I said. Also, I just wanted to make sure. The lab tour is still happening, right? Are the chaos sensors installed? Izuku asked. As well as the biometric scanners? Yes sir, I said. Then yes, Izuku said. Suddenly, Kiba burst through the door, breaking it off its hinges. Caretaker, Sori broke every bone in her body. Izuku sighed. Again? Get her to Vera. Already on it, caretaker. Kiba nodded, before running away to make sure Sori got to the infirmary okay. Sorry, I have to go. I need to go do damage control, and call someone to fix the door. Izuku sighed. Chapter 193, School's Out. Before we begin, there are some things I'd like to tell you. Izuku started. Once again Izuku and Rin were in Izuku's office, starting another therapy session. Go on, Rin said. Well, you know those sky pirates that stole my ship? Izuku winced. Yeah, I kinda told them to do that. And let them steal it. Well that actually makes sense, Rin said in a super casual tone, as he sipped his coffee. I was wondering why you were making a pirate ship to begin with, but I guess that question is somewhat answered. You're not surprised? Or mad? Or anything? Izuku said, feeling a bit relieved. I expect not to expect things. Have you seen my quirk? Ren chuckled. As for being mad, I'm not one to jump to conclusions. I'll let you explain yourself before I cast judgment. Much appreciated, Izuku said, as he did a short bow, before explaining everything. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX without the law getting in the way. Run surmised after listening to everything. Yeah, it does sound rather sketchy, Izuku admitted. But I don't know how else to fight them. It's sketchy, yeah, but I don't think you're in the wrong, Ren admitted, much to Izuku's surprise. The law's great in all in that it keeps people from killing people for the most part, but it's been twisted and bent for the benefit of no so well-intentioned people. I'm more of an advocate for justice than upholding the law. I see. Izuku relaxed a bit. Well, I'm still more than a bit nervous. It just feels like a slippery slope. Run finished. That's the conundrum. Where do you draw the line? Too close and you'll be defenseless. Too far, and you're just as bad as the people you're fighting. The worst part is there's almost never an answer. At least not one that can't only be found in hindsight. But there are a few landmarks that might help you out. Mainly murder. Have you killed anyone? No. Izuku sighed. Thankfully I haven't had to cross that line yet. That's good. Regardless of what you have to do, I'd say you should always treat life with respect. Ren advised. The moment human lives become nothing but a resource or obstacle, or anything like that, is when you yourself become something less than human. Right. Izuku nodded, taking those words to heart. Thank you. You're welcome. And I'm glad you opened up to me about it. Ran told him. Isolation is the enemy of mankind. Even if you have to keep your secrets, having a few people to who you can tell everything, and who can advise you when you need it the most, is more valuable than anything else. Except for your children, of course. Now, let's start the session properly. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX that no shadows were around. It seems like we'll have an easier time than before, Izuku said. Good. I want to get this over with. Don't be reckless, Run warned him. We won't know if your cognition changed or not until we run into Bakugo. And even then, cognition changes can be wild. Even if Bakugo is weaker, it won't guarantee that it'll be a cakewalk from here on. I know that. Izuku sighed as he opened the door, and they entered the school itself. I just want to see the effects of this so I can finally start letting you work with my children. I understand, but patience is key when it comes to healing, Run told him. Remember that. Deku. Kaboom! Suddenly cognitive Bakugo exploded down the halls, heading towards the two of them at mind-boggling speeds. Thwack! Heracles materialized in front of Izuku, and thwacked Bakugo back, hitting him through several walls. Ha! Looks like it worked. Ren noted. Honestly, didn't think the cognitive change would be this strong. Well, after some reflecting I realized something, Izuku said. Kaken is strong, don't get me wrong. But I'm something different. Back then he didn't even need to be close to me to hurt me. But now, he's not even a concern. Don't talk down to me, Deku. The fake Bakugo roared out in rage as he once again exploded himself over to them, cocking his arm back and ready to fire an explosion. Heracles! Get him out of our way! Izuku said, sounding more annoyed than threatened. Heracles appeared in front of Izuku, just as cognitive Bakugo landed in front of them, before letting out a massive explosion at Heracles. As cognitive Bakugo landed on his feet, Heracles' hand came out of the smoke and grabbed him by the head. Ack! Let go! Cognitive Bakugo roared, as he unleashed explosion after explosion onto Heracles, but it did nothing to the beast. Killing this thing won't have any effect on me or the real-world Bakugo, right? Izuku asked. Nope, Ren said with a pop. Crush! Without another wasted second, Heracles crushed cognitive Bakugo's head, allowing it to dissolve into shadow. Let's go, Izuku said, as he walked forward. Not paying the matter any more mind. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX looking for. This is where I should be, Judging by the time, that is, Izuku said as he touched the door to the classroom, ready to open it, but Rin put his arm on him to stop him. This isn't gonna be easy. Breathe. Prepare yourself. Rin advised him. Izuku nodded, before taking a deep breath. Alright, let's go. He opened the door, ready to face whatever horrors they'd find inside. The classroom itself was far bigger than it was in real life. Roughly 50 times the size. And it looked more like a prison than a classroom. With bars on the windows. In the center of the room was Shadow Izuku. Held up by black chains, made of words. The words being things like weak, worthless, quirkless, and failure. The chains wrapped around his entire body, restaining his arms and legs, all the way up to his neck. In between the chains, Izuku could see his shadow holding onto a familiar notebook. Hero Notes for the Future. Shadow Izuku himself looked almost identical to how Izuku looked after he first met All Might. Messy hair, baggy eyes, and a pale complexion. Only he was in his middle school uniform. As they entered the room, Shadow Izuku opened his eyes, allowing them to see they were yellow instead of green. So you finally came. The shadow said in a detached tone. Honestly, I didn't think you'd get past Kaken. But you've gotten pretty full of yourself, haven't you, Deku? That notebook, Izuku said, pointing to said object. Get rid of it. Shadow Izuku glared at his other self. No. Izuku. You can't keep going like this. Ran added. That's why we're here. We're going to free you, whether you like it or not. Shadow Izuku grit his teeth, and held his notebook tighter, causing the chains to tighten along with it. No one will take this from me. No matter what. I will never let go. Suddenly, the room began to shake, and they could hear whispers coming from all sides. Useless. Pointless. Weak. Waste of space. Waste of air. Jump off the roof and hope you get reborn with a quirk in your next life. The word chains wrapped around Shadow Izuku, completely obscuring him from sight, and taking form, until they formed a colossus made of chains, with many faces popping out of its chest. Die! The chain colossus raised its arm, and Izuku and Rin jumped back as it slammed its arm into the ground, causing the room to shake. We need to take the notebook, Rin told him. It's controlling the chains, we take that, and we can end this. Right. Izuku nodded. Heracles. Heracles appeared in front of Izuku, before jumping at the chain colossus, his weapon raised and ready to strike. Failure. The faces on the colossus roared, spitting out more harsh language, which took physical form and rushed at Heracles. Heracles batted them away, but this left him open to getting grabbed by the colossus's hand. Rah! Heracles roared, as he struggled to free himself. The chains around him broke easily, but they just kept replenishing themselves, keeping him from escaping. Arsene! Ren shouted as he summoned his own persona and shot out a massive purple flame at the colossus's wrist. Boom! The flame exploded, destroying the colossus's wrist and causing its hand to fall, freeing Heracles, who shattered the chains around him, before landing on his feet. By the time that happened, the colossus had already regrown its hand. It's regenerating too fast. Izuku pointed out. We'll never reach its chest at this rate. Don't be so sure, Rin assured him. I was prepared for this. Then, Rin pulled out a tape recorder, before running towards the colossus. The colossus raised its foot ready to crush Rin, when the therapist threw the tape recorder at its foot. The device embedded itself in between the chains and... You can do it, caretaker! Shouted Kiba's voice. Kaboom! Suddenly the foot exploded in a burst of light, completely destroying the foot of the colossus. Kiba! Izuku shouted in confusion. What was that? Positive affirmation from people you care about, Ren explained. The best way to dispel harsh words. Look! The colossus was regenerating its foot, but the process was far slower, giving them some time to breathe. I'll create an opening, you grab the book. Got it, Rin said. Izuku nodded. Right. With that decided, Ren ran forward, rushing past the Colossus, before throwing another recorder at the back of its other leg. You're amazing, Dad! Shouted Netsu's voice. Kaboom! The back of its leg exploded, causing it to start falling forward. Heracles! Izuku shouted as Heracles showed up in front of him, before jumping forward towards the Colossus, and punching it, making it fall back instead. Ren aimed his grappling hook and fired it, allowing him to speed away onto the side of the wall, as the Colossus fell. Then he threw a few recorders onto the Colossus's chest. I love you, Daddy! Shouted Ares' voice. It's thanks to you we can be happy. Fu's voice said. You've never failed us. Nara's voice said. Don't let those jerks keep you down. Ken's voice said. We're all rooting for you, Daddy. Kei's voice shouted. Kaboom! A massive explosion of light burst from the Colossus's chest, revealing Shadow Izuku underneath, clutching his notebook. Ag! Shadow Izuku gasped, as his eyes widened in fear. Izuku summoned Heracles and jumped on his back, before Heracles bolted onto the fallen Colossus, running on all fours like a wild animal. No! Shadow Izuku roared as he used hundreds of chains from his body, and launched them at Izuku, creating a tidal wave of chains. Heracles grabbed onto Izuku and threw him over the tidal wave, headed right towards Shadow Izuku. Gah! Shadow Izuku sent a few last desperate chains at Izuku, but Izuku kicked them aside, and landed on top of his shadow self. Enough is enough! Izuku shouted as he leaned down and grabbed onto the notebook. No! Please! Shadow Izuku cried as he tried to hold onto the notebook, but slowly but surely, it was slipping out of his grip. It's time to let go! Izuku cried as he finally pried the notebook from his shadow's hands. Suddenly, the Colossus turned white, before glowing so bright it blinded everyone in the room. When the light died down, Izuku and Ren were standing side by side, with Shadow Izuku on his knees in front of them. The chains having vanished entirely. My dream! Shadow Izuku said quietly, tears streaming down from his eyes. Please don't take my dream. It was all I had. For so long. It was my only hope. I can't let it go. I won't. Izuku just looked down at his shadow, a mixture of emotions rushing through him. Pity, anger, sadness, self-loathing. You're pathetic. I know. Shadow Izuku said. We're a failure. No matter how hard we held on to that dream. We never even came close to achieving it. We couldn't even reach the starting line. Honestly, the lack of self-awareness here is astonishing, Rin said, jumping into the conversation, getting the attention of both Izukus. Sure, you failed to become a hero. So what? What? Both Izuku threw Rin confused looks. You failed at becoming a hero. But that doesn't make you a failure. Ren said to both of them. Izuku. Why did you want to become a hero? Both Izuku paused for a second, before answering at the same time. Because I thought saving people was the coolest thing you could do. Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but you've done a lot of saving in the past year, have you not? Ren asked. If you judge yourself by what you haven't done, then, of course, you seem like a failure. But when you look at both sides, things become a lot more clear. On one hand, you didn't become a hero. On the other hand, you took down the Yakuza, helped the Uraraka's failing business, fought and put away several villains, and helped bring forth a new era of scientific progress which you are using to cure some of the most infamous diseases known to man, among other things, helped get my sister a job she loves, saved Tokoshi's grandson, gave Ms. Buura a job despite her being blacklisted by the HPSC, and most importantly. Ren then pulled out a photo from his pocket and threw it in front of Shadow Izuku. Both Izuku looked down at the photo and saw that it was a group photo of him and all the kids. You created a place where all these children could laugh and smile, Ren said. Even if it's not perfect all the time. You gave these kids, who had nothing, a family, friends, food, laughs, and memories they'll treasure for the rest of their lives. So, taking all that in mind, do you still think you're a failure? Neither Izuku responded to that. Instead, Shadow Izuku just picked up the photo and looked at it deeply. Those kids. Suddenly, the photo glowed, and in a flash, it transformed into another book. But rather than a notebook, it was a scrapbook, now containing hundreds of photos of all the memories he and the kids shared. Izuku smiled a bit as his shadow self flipped through the book. After a while, Izuku sat down in front of his shadow and took a deep breath. I think I've been too harsh on you. Same. Shadow Izuku agreed as he looked his other self in the eyes. We've achieved something. We did manage to help quite a bit, I guess. More than a bit. We've done a lot for a kid without a quirk. Izuku retorted. And we need to recognize that. For their sakes, if anything. Right. Shadow Izuku said, before looking up at the notebook in Izuku's hand. And there's one more thing we need to do. Izuku looked down at the notebook, and then at his shadow self, before the two of them nodded. The real Izuku held out the notebook to his shadow self, who took it back. Shadow Izuku looked down at the notebook, with a sad smile, and tear-filled eyes. It was a nice dream, but it's time to wake up. With that, Shadow Izuku set down the notebook on the floor, and watched, as it promptly faded away. Shadow Izuku then picked up the scrapbook and held it to his chest. Thank you. All of you. I promise I won't fail you. Then, Shadow Izuku started to fade, until he vanished entirely. Suddenly, the school started to shake, and cracks appeared in the room. Alright, time to make our exit. Ren said as he and Izuku started running out of the room, making their way to the exit. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Phew. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief, as the two of them laid back on the couches, back in the real world. That was... How do you feel? Ren asked. It feels like something heavy was lifted off my back, Izuku explained as he tried to come to terms with the new feelings he was experiencing. But, for some reason, I feel like I'm gonna miss it. That's what healing feels like, Ren told him. Well, I feel a lot better than worse, so I think I can say it worked. Izuku smiled. Which means we can start therapy sessions with the kids now. Right. Ron nodded. Although, Lavenza told me to warn you about something. A new distortion is appearing in your heart. One caused by all the fear and stress you've been feeling. Izuku frowned. Just be careful not to let fear control you, Rin said. If isolation is the biggest enemy of mankind, fear is not far behind. Chapter 194, A Talk with Friends. Thank you two for coming. Izuku was in his office, sitting down with Hachiko and All Might, having some tea he'd brewed beforehand. No problem. Sorry, I haven't been able to come by as often. Hachiko apologized. It's fine. It's fine, you're both very busy after all. Izuku assured them. If anything, I should be sorry for calling you here, but I have something important to discuss with you too. Whatever it is, young Midoriya, you can count on us. All Might told him with a smile. Izuku sighed, the ever-growing feeling of guilt tightening in his chest. Recently, me and Nizu have been collaborating. Yes, you've been working with UA. All Might said. No, I mean working with Nizu. Not the whole of UA. Izuku clarified. In secret. Oh. All Might's pupils shrunk, as he realized that whatever that implied was not good. Hachiko stayed silent, wondering where this was going. So you recall how those sky pirates came in and stole my flying pirate ship? Izuku asked. Well, they didn't really steal it. Huh? Hachiko gave him a confused look. The sky pirates were picked out by me and Nizu, and we allowed them to steal the ship, Izuku explained. They work for us. Both of them stayed silent, neither of them sure what to say in response to that, so they stayed silent and waited for Izuku to give them the full explanation. The problem comes from the fact that we're fighting powerful enemies who've hidden in plain sight, Izuku said. The MLA has several companies funding it, such as Detnarat. The same goes for the other organizations that have been after me. It would take years of gathering evidence in order to try and take them down. That would mean years of my children being attacked and targeted, and I can't allow that. The Sky Pirates allow us to attack and gather evidence much faster than we would otherwise. By circumventing the law. All Might interjected disapprovingly. Izuku sighed. Yes, by circumventing the law. But I told you, the other option was unacceptable. There's not much I can do without circumventing the law. What else do you think I can do? I mean, he's not wrong, Achiko said with a conflicted expression. This place is supposed to be a place for children, not a battleground. The fact that he's had to go this far is proof of how ridiculous this has gotten. I understand your plight, but this is dangerous, young Midoriya. All Might said. What happens if those fake villains decide to stop listening to you and hurt someone innocent? That's a risk I have to take, Izuku said. If I don't do anything, that's a risk too. A risk that my children will keep getting attacked. And that's the bottom line. Like I said, I understand, but if the government finds out about this, All Might didn't get the chance to finish as Izuku cut him off. The government is in on this too, Izuku revealed. Me, Nizu, and certain members of the government all have the ability to give the Sky Pirates orders. Should you really be telling us that then? Achiko asked. Isn't that like a government cessert then? I have enough power to the point where I don't really need to worry about the government doing anything to me, Izuku said. For the most part, that is. Plus you two already know government secrets, so as you don't do anything about it, I don't think they'll care. Still, are you sure we can trust these pirates? All Might asked. Most of them had some sort of criminal record before they became the Sky Pirates. Vigilantes, the urge to use their quirks, and self-defense after years of abuse, Izuku explained. None of them bad people, All Might. Just people who've been wronged, and people who have some issues they need to work out. I trust them, and so far it seems they've been more than willing to do as they're told. And if they decide to betray that trust, then I will crush them, completely and utterly. Both of them looked unsure, and after a long intense silence, All Might spoke up. Young Midoriya, why are you telling us this? Because I don't like this. Izuku admitted. Not knowing if I'm doing the right thing. Working around the law. It just feels wrong. Even though it feels like my only solution. But, if you two know, and you're with me, I'll feel a little bit better. And if I go too far, I'm counting on you to stop me. By force, if necessary. Izuku. Achiko looked at her friends with eyes full of concern, before getting up, and wrapping him in a hug. I'm sorry. You must have been so stressed out about all of this. I can't imagine how hard this has been for you. To make someone so kind resort to this, we'll support you. Like we always have. And if you start going down a bad path, we'll stop you in your tracks and turn you around. Got it? Izuku smiled and hugged her back. Thank you. Both of you. After Achiko and Izuku separated, Izuku went over to his desk and pulled something out. A hollow disc. But, I have some more stuff I need to show you. Izuku went back to the couches and set the disc down on the table. This is going to be a lot, but I need you both to stay with me. With a press of a button, the hollow disc displayed an image of a Chaos Emerald. Isn't that the thing your bodyguard had? Achiko asked. Right. Recently, a new kind of energy was discovered. Chaos energy. Izuku explained. This is the energy that powers all quirks, as well as possibly the thoughts of all living things in the universe, but we're still looking into that. Regardless, this energy has two forms, pure chaos energy and impure chaos energy. Impure chaos energy is what pretty much all living beings possess and powers all quirks. It's also the power harnessed by the fractals. That's the crystal you used to heal us back at the stadium, right? Achiko asked. Izuku nodded. The fractals, due to containing the power of impure chaos energy, can basically have their own quirks that anyone can use provided they touch the fractal. Then you have pure chaos energy. It's very volatile and hard to maintain, but it's far more powerful, and theoretically, you could do just about anything you want if you can utilize it correctly. But for now, its main use is as a power source, and to enhance the power of quirks and fractals, which is what you saw with Sori. By how much? All Might asked. When Sori used it, she moved so fast. It was like watching you, All Might. Achiko said. The Chaos Emeralds are extremely powerful. They contain even more raw power than even All Might. Izuku explained, causing their eyes to widen. But most people's bodies can't fully utilize their power. They'll become extremely powerful, and they might even give you some trouble, but All Might should still be able to take them. Although I can't experience their power myself. The quirkless can't use it. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. Izuku pressed another button, and a hologram of Protomon showed up. This is Protomon. The world's first sentient artificial intelligence. All Might and Achiko gasped. Wait. Achiko stuttered. You mean like, robots that can think and feel and stuff? Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? Izuku asked optimistically, before noticing the slight fear in his friend's face. You don't have to worry about him doing the whole Terminator thing. Their minds are pretty much human, and their development has a heavy amount of oversight. Speaking of which, we're starting to get to the actual thing I wanted to talk to you about. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. With another press of a button, a new image popped up. Showing two androids. They both wore orange coats with big buttons on them, orange pants, and black boots along with a black belt, and a belt buckle that had the symbol for Gamma on it. Gamma 1 had a single fin on his head, and sported a red cape, while Gamma 2 had two fins and a blue cape. These are two androids that are to be made using fractals, possessing your power. One for all. Izuku explained. Ha! All Might gasped again, as he spat up some blood. How did you dash? We can impart fractals with copies of people's quirks, using their DNA. Izuku explained, looking at the blood that was now on his table. And getting yours wasn't very hard. Nizu had Achiko's blood on hand as well. But fractals don't have the full power of the quirk they copy. So Gamma 1 and 2 won't be as strong as you. Still, I feel like you should have asked us first, before you pulled something like this. All Might insisted. Izuku winced guiltily. Yeah, probably. I just got ahead of myself. I'm sorry. But with these two, I won't have to worry so much about villain attacks, or your retirement. All Might frowned. So that's what they're for. I understand Achiko's meant to take your place, but she's just a student, Izuku explained. Even if she's fully capable of using one for all, she still will be stuck at UA most of the time. Or just not allowed to intervene. You're a pillar of society, All Might. And without you, I fear things might get chaotic. So the Gammas are meant to help keep the peace until Achiko graduates. Well, that's good? Achiko said, still sounding a bit unsure. When you say it like that, I'm a bit more convinced. All Might said. Having some more powerful allies is always a good thing, I suppose. Still, I think it would be best not to make more than two of these. I don't think the world is ready for it. Izuku nodded and sighed. Speaking of things the world isn't ready for. There's one more android I need to tell you about. One far more dangerous than the Gammas. Zero. An android made with the Chaos Emerald in mind, and can make full use of its power. But that would mean they'd be the most powerful thing on Earth. Achiko surmised. Izuku nodded. Which is why I put a stop to his creation. Right now he's storage. And I have no plans of completing him anytime soon. However, his existence has brought something to my attention. Are you too aware of the quirk singularity theory? It's the theory that as time goes on, and quirks get more and more powerful, it'll lead to the end of the world as we know it. All Might surmised. It's a rather grim theory. But it's not unfounded, Izuku responded. The strong have always ruled the weak. That's just how the world works. But the weak always have the numbers advantage, and eventually, they could overcome the strong if need be. However, with the way things are progressing, I don't think that'll be the case. Who do you think would win, All Might, or a million people with weak quirks? Hachiko and All Might winced, as they knew exactly what would happen in that situation. It would be a massacre. All Might, Hachiko, All for One, the Gammas, and especially Zero, Izuku said. All of you could cause mass destruction on a nightmarish scale. And what's worse is while of course, you two wouldn't do that. But what about down the line? What if One for All gets handed to the wrong person? What if All for One steals it? Or if he just kills you and there's no One for All to stop him? Then there's the Gammas and Zero. These are powerhouses that can be produced. And sure, the Midoriya Foundation has a monopoly on the technology now, but that won't always be the case. There will be a time when the outside world will be able to make things as powerful as you. Young Midoriya, where are you going with this? All Might came out and asked. Izuku took a deep breath. This is what I wanted to talk about. Project Deicide. A project dedicated to making weapons to counter this issue. Namely, EA. A weapon designed to shoot a beam that will teleport its target across the multiverse, breaking them down atom by atom. It's basically a cosmic, multiversal wood chipper. Nothing can survive being hit by it. No matter how powerful they are. At least. In theory. Right now the weapon's plausibility is only theoretical, but I've been told so far that nothing makes the concept impossible. All it would take is one shot. And All for One would be nothing but atoms. That. All Might would be lying if he said the thought of destroying All for One so completely that his remains would be untraceable even by a microscope wasn't appealing to him. But wouldn't this become the next world-threatening power? Not at all. Izuku shook his head. It's only a weapon, you still have to hit your opponent. If you fought a million people with this, you'd take out a good chunk of them, but you'd only be able to fire it once before they swarmed you and took it away. It's a weapon to fight one strong person rather than a million weak people. Not to mention, these can't be mass-produced. While the weapon is not even in development yet, we do know it would require at least the power of a Chaos Emerald to work. And those are made with materials so rare that even with my deep pockets I can't even make more than 7 of them. This is a lot to take in, young Midoriya. All Might said as he leaned back. The discovery of chaos energy has advanced scientific progress significantly. Honestly, it feels like whenever I blink my scientists have discovered a new way to rewrite the laws of reality. Izuku sympathized. But progress isn't something that can or should be stopped. Only steered. Right now I have a monopoly, so I can set the foundation. And I believe this is what's best. There was another period of silence, as Hachiko and All Might took all this in. Izuku, thank you for trusting us with this. And we promise to keep this all a secret. Hachiko swore. We know you, and we know you'll do the right thing. This is all a bit over my head, so I can't truly cast judgment. But I agree with young Uraraka. All Might said. You've always strived to do what is just, and support those around you. And that won't change anytime soon. A smile crept onto Izuku's face, and a further feeling of relief filled him. Thank you. Both of you. Chapter 195, Mental Profile. Eri Midoriya. Eri probably has one of the most upsetting stories I've heard in my life. When Eri was very young, she accidentally killed her own father. Due to how young she was, this is likely one of the first memories she has. Followed shortly by the memory of her mother blaming her for the incident and abandoning her. This, along with further negative reinforcement, has caused Eri to develop major depressive disorder. It's nowhere near as bad as it was before, but it seems she's still quick to blame herself for ridiculous things. Not much information can be found on what happened while Eri was in her grandfather's care, but it didn't last long before overhaul took over and her own personal health started. She was isolated in a small cold room underground, never allowed to go outside or even see the sun. She was verbally abused on a near-daily basis. And worst of all, she'd be subjected to cruel physical torment, being ripped apart and put back together without any use of anesthetics or pain relievers. Now I don't like the idea of murder. Lives are valuable, and people can change. But if I had the chance, I don't think I could resist the option of violently murdering Kai Chisaki. Fortunately, I won't need to worry about that, because someone did the world a favor and took him out of it. Back to Eri. Fortunately, Eri has had many of her worst memories of that time taken away by her sister Kyoku. But she still remembers much of it. She's developed ornithophobia due to the bird-like mask the Yakuza would often wear for some reason. At first, she had a severe fear of needles and other medical equipment. However, it seems she's gotten over it after having her blood taken in a more sensible manner. To a worrying degree, in fact. It appears that Eri's torment has led her to having an unnatural apathy to all but the most extreme forms of pain, even leading her to perform self-harm at one point. Her quirk doesn't help that matter, as it allows her to heal herself consequence-free, making injury even more negligible. Speaking of her quirk adding to her mental issues, her quirk is called Rewind. It allows her to rewind organic objects back to a previous state, in pretty much any way imaginable. The amount of things this quirk can do is so vast that it would take all day for me to list them. But suffice it to say, this may be one of the most powerful quirks to exist in human history. This has caused Eri some additional stress for two main reasons. One, she has to constantly worry about people out for her blood, literally, and two, due to her good nature and influence from her father, she believes she has a responsibility to use this power to help others. Which is a good thing. However, she can only do so much at once, and she's a child, so there are some issues there. Overall, however, despite all this, Eri has proven extremely resilient. Recovering from that nightmare of a life she lived at astounding speed with far fewer mental issues than most would have gotten from that experience. Some would call it a miracle, I call it a triumph. Kei Midoriya. I'll be honest, Kei Midoriya scares me. If Eri's mind is strong, Kei is near invincible. Despite being thrown out, treated like dirt by disgusting quirkists, and forced to live on the street, the girl seems to have no notable mental issues. She's an overwhelmingly positive girl, who's an aggressive optimist. Rolling with the world's punches better than anyone I've ever seen. Normally I'd think such positivity would be a mask or a coping mechanism, but now further observation shows that she really is just that positive. I doubt she'll need much help from me. Kiba Midoriya. Kiba is a classic case of dissociation. Due to her quirk and discouraging words from her birth parents, Kiba can't help but view herself as a destructive parasite. And in order to cope with that, she crafted this fantasy persona of Kiba, the Queen of Eternal Darkness, with this grand made-up backstory. Kiba is aware of this, but she still has issues taking off the mask, so to speak. And she can become easily depressed if she accidentally causes trouble. Fu Midoriya. Fu is a rather tricky case. Due to his quirk, his emotions are muted. This results in Fu feeling absolutely nothing at times, a feeling he utterly detests, leading to him seeking out any form of emotional stimulation, more often than not being other people. You can say Fu is somewhat dependent on others emotionally, but he won't fall apart if you leave him alone for a couple hours. After that, it's not clear. Fu also seems to have suffered from depression before his bond with Kyosei, who I won't yet be seeing as they are a baby, due to his rather weak abilities compared to his peers. Although after bonding with Kyosei he appears to have amended that it further increased his reliance on others. Sansen Midoriya. The poor girl had been trapped in a glass jar for a full year, and as such, she has developed an intense claustrophobia. Sansan is constantly moving around, never once staying still, and avoiding any and all types of confinement. Most notably, she detests wear clothes and avoids being inside her room. She can also be somewhat prone to violence, but not due to malicious intent, more due to just finding it cool. Kyoku Midoriya. Kyoku suffered from emotional abuse at the hands of her birth family, causing her to grow extremely angry and spiteful, possibly developing some level of psychopathy. Made worse by the fact that she can see into others' memories, and the memories she's seen don't exactly paint humanity in a positive light. She can be rather violent and prone to using her quirk without consent, although this has somewhat lessened in her time at the Midoriya Foundation. Although she still grows irritable at the sight of happy birth families. It appears she still hasn't completely detached herself mentally from her old family, despite her love for her new one. Shiruku Midoriya. Shiruku Midoriya is mostly mentally sound. She has some slight self-esteem issues related to her body. People don't exactly call spiders attractive, so you can imagine how you'd feel if you were a half spider. Yami Midoriya. Yami is another interesting case. All things considered, he should have quite a few issues. His parents were killed when he was young, he was forced to survive by himself in the wild for most of his life, and when he did join civilization he learned that both his powers and appearance were considered to be unsightly by the larger world. Yet despite this, he's one of the most well-adjusted and mentally sound kids here. This seems to be due to a feeling of emotional detachment from societal norms and pressures. He doesn't really care about his birth parents, because he never met them. He doesn't lament having to grow up in the wild or looking like he does, it's just something he has to deal with. It's all so matter of fact to him. I suppose Mr. Midoriya's influence helped, as he knows he always has people who'll support him regardless of his quirk and appearance. Although he does appear to be a little insecure about the dubious implication of his quirk. Fukunoko Midoriya. Fuku is a rather heartwarming case. Being emotionally, verbally, and physically abused by her birth father, Fuku developed an intense persecution complex, as well as agoraphobia and anthropophobia, leading her to never leave her room at first. However, once she got to the Midoriya Foundation, it became clear she was aware of this and wanted to overcome it. And with the help of the other children, she's drastically improved, leaving her room and interacting with the other children on a regular basis, although she does avoid being in large crowds, even here. Despite her immense growth, she's still extremely cautious around new people and tends to slide back into her old habits. And she has never left the Midoriya Foundation grounds. Kai Midoriya. Kai is another case where there really isn't much to say. The boy is rather stable, despite some of the verbal abuse that's been thrown at him. He's a bit self-conscious and overly cautious, but with his size, that's mostly a good thing. Mu Midoriya. Mu's most notable issue is his extreme social anxiety disorder. He refuses to be seen by people, but he has no issue interacting with them, so long as he's not being looked at. This seems to be a natural response rather than something caused by his upbringing, as even Mu doesn't know why he's like that. Perhaps it's a psychological effect of his quirk. Yonda Midoriya. Oh boy, this one is a doozy. Yonda has an extreme case of agoraphobia, leading her to seek out ways to feel in control. This often takes the form of manipulation. Yonda feels powerful when she gets people to do what she wants, and the feeling is quite addicting. This has led to some friction in the Midoriya house. Although it appears Yonda genuinely believed up until recently that she was doing what she was doing for purely good reasons. That's not to say she's a bad person, just misguided and hurt. Fortunately, we can step in and intervene before her bad habits develop into something worse. Ken Midoriya. Ken suffers from borderline personality disorder. He exhibits aggressive and reckless behavior, as well as an inflated ego. Although this appears to be a cover for his self-loathing. After an incident in which he almost killed his sister due to his quirk, Ken seems to have developed a subconscious self-hatred, thinking himself to be dangerous and even evil, although he refuses to acknowledge it. Ni/Kira Midoriya. Another dozy. The first and most notable issue is dissociative identity disorder. Due to our limited information, it's unclear if Ni's or Kira is the alter, or when this disorder developed. Ni's has amnesia and is rather unsure about, well, everything. The poor girl is rather timid due to her lack of knowledge and her situation and seems to be developing some form of agoraphobia. Not much information is available on Kira. And she doesn't come out to talk very much. What is known is that she was a child assassin, killing in exchange for affection from her parents. It appears she didn't have much sympathy for her victims, although she didn't appear to find any joy in taking lives either. However, she appears to be cooperating with us for the time being. Aka Midoriya, aka is rather similar to Kyoku but more extreme. AKA has an intense hatred of villains, due to them having killed her friends and family, to the point where she actually tortured a man who she called evil, and he was. Although she seems to have a thing against killing, which is good. Perhaps she views that as the line she shouldn't cross. Shina Midoriya. Shina, like Kira, was a former child assassin, and like Kira, she doesn't seem to feel all that much remorse. She does feel bad for the people she killed, but it appears she thinks of that as her parents' fault rather than her own, which is fair. Shina also appears to have some confidence issues, both in her abilities and her appearance. In terms of abilities, Shina is unfortunately not very capable in most aspects, however, her quirk would allow her to be proficient at anything. But due to her parents judging her value by her quirk alone, she seems to want to do things with her own natural abilities. In terms of her appearance, Shina has discovered the world of cosmetics and has become addicted to them. It's been reported that she's been learning about them with a feverish determination, and she's been seen without her makeup on less and less. While it's good that she's become more confident, I worry she may develop a dependency on cosmetics. Jin Midoriya. Jin has a medical condition that causes him to be extremely tired most of the time. As a result of this, Jin seems to want to interact with people as little as possible, and sleep almost all of the time. Even when he's awake, he prefers to be alone. It's possible that Jin is somehow the least sociable child in the Foundation. Which says a lot. Inu Midoriya. Inu appears to be mostly stable, however, appears like she had an emotional connection to her father that her sisters didn't share. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 36. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.